You're entering the Blitz with your host, Matt Maldonado, on Madness4life News. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Matt Maldonado, here in FEMA Region 9, Las Vegas, Nevada, and this is The Blitz, episode 2 of the podcast 31 of Madness4life News. I'm getting into a lot of articles today. So let's start with this one right now from RT. U.S. Suspends Afghan training in attempt to stem green on blue killings. The U.S. military has increased training Afghan until all soldiers have been investigated for insurgent ties. The action aims to curtail rogue Afghan attacks against NATO soldiers, which have killed at least 45 since the beginning of the year. More than 25,000 Afghan why can I not say that word? Resurgence will be investigated. A special operations officials told the Washington Post the most comes in response to an escalation of Afghan attacks on their U.S. counterparts, known as green on blue killings. We have a very good venting process, the official said. What we learned is that you just can't take it for granted. We probably should have had a mechanism to follow up with reason from the beginning. The official, speaking on coordination of anonymity, claimed that NATO cut corners during venting procedures in an attempt to train as many Afghan troops as possible. Everyone admits there was a lot of international pressures to growth these forces, and the venting of these individuals was cast aside as an inhibitor. He said, adding that the loose regulations meant that Afghans who linked probable coordinationals were not questioned and often passed under the radar. Following a meeting in Afghanistan last week, the most senior security officials in the country, Kabul, announced that it would screen the files of 350,000 policemen and soldiers in an attempt to identify moles and infiltrators. Afghan security forces had been infiltrated by foreign spy agencies. A government spokeswoman said special operations officials have estimated that the reventing of all Afghans could take as long as 2 months, and that the training of new ones will be halted for around a month. There we go. The spike in green-on-blue violence has been a bone of contention for NATO-led forces in Afghanistan, making up almost 15% of this year's coalition of faculties. In response, NATO is reportedly weighing a number of methods in identify insurgents in the ranks of Afghans. On Thursday, the latest spate of green-on-blue killings saw 3 Australian troops shot dead at close range by an Afghan National Army sergeant on a military base in the southern region of the country. A cause for deep concern. Barack Obama voiced deep concern over the escalation of violence ahead of the planned withdrawal of U.S. troops in 2014. We are transitioning to Afghan security, and for us to train them effectively, we are in most closer contact. Our troops are in much closer contact with Afghan troops on an ongoing basis, the president said, adding that U.S. soldiers should not be made more viable than they already are. In August, the current head of the Taliban said that members of the terrorist organization has infiltrated the Afghan security forces and were carrying out coordinated attacks. He argued his followers to increase their attacks on NATO soldiers. The U.S.-led coalition forces are currently training Afghans in hopes of establishing a law enforcement body that can take over security responsibilities in 2014. Thousands in Hong Kong protest brainwash education reform. This is from RT. Just days before the start of the school year, tens of thousands of Hong Kong residents took to the streets to protest what they believe is an attempt by authorities to brainwash students. More than 40,000 people assembled outside government headquarters and demanded the cancellation of Chinese patriotism lessons proposed for school circumstances. Students and parents claim that these lessons, which would become compulsory by 2016, are an attempt to brainwash children with Chinese propaganda. The protesters demanded that Beijing respect Hong Kong's semi-auto-assumption status. The program, which consists of general civics education as well as more contrivial lessons on supporting the Chinese mainland, will be intensiated, whatever, in some primary schools in September and secondary schools in 2013. The government claims that the classes are a way to neutral a sense of natural identity and comprehension amid increasing levels of anti-Beijing sentiment. It was the second mass demonstration against the proposed education reform in 2 months, after some 90,000 people took to the streets in July. On Thursday, 3 students at a Hong Kong high school intended a 3-day hunger strike against the News Asia reported against it. The students, appearing pale and weak, said that the patriotism circularum should be removed from school. We're here on hunger strike because the government is not listening to the people's voice. Joshua Wong told Channel News Asia. And it continues on from there. Continuing here with these other articles. Prague. Prague's homeless took tourists off the beaten path. Prague's homeless have found a way to profit from the city's fluctuating tourism industry by offering an alternative to mainstream tour guides. The North Docks Chapter One's show visitors another side to the city from the people who knew it best. The forests into Prague's gritty underbelly offer visitors a glimpse at places inhabitable by the city's poor and homeless. The guide has opened quite a different view of Prague for me. Tembelis, a German sightseer who who sees in the tourism said, the experience had opened the world of the homeless to him, he said. The intensive debate dubbed Prague-like targets other Czechs and foreign tourists. There are currently 10 such tours being offered, focusing on both the city's downtown and outskirts. No one knows the streets like a homeless person does. Product founder Karin, I can't say her last name, told Czech publication The Prague Post. She claimed that the homeless-led tours were first devised by the guides themselves. The tours cost around 200 Czech crowns, $10, half of which goes to the guide. Chen covers a recovering alcoholic, and one of the 8 guides working for Prague said that the intensive offered him the opportunity to improve his life. I'm trying to make the most of what life dealt me, and with the help of God, I am, he said. Product 3 founders, Terze, Carla, and Darj, I can't even say the name, sorry, say that the project will contribute to the improvement of the situation for the homeless and will help combat negative stereotypes. Prague has a population of 1.2 million people, some 4,000 of whom are estimated to be homeless and are often quite happily ignored by the rest of the city. Many people really criticize the homeless. They throw them out into the same bag, and that's just not right. One of the founders said, Product is not the first enterprise of its kind in Europe. For a number of years, London's sock mob offered tours led by homeless or formerly homeless people, claiming they often offered a window into unseen London. Continuing here. Acres low, Russian fighter jet buzzes highway drivers. This is an RT article again. Have you ever seen a supersonic attack aircraft roll right over your head? A driver in southern Russia had this exact experience when an Su-24 warplane flew just a few dozen meters over his vehicle. The driver managed to record the incident with a dashboard camera. The footage of the warplane flying extremely close to the ground went viral, sparking a heated online debate over whether the video was genuine or fake. Many argued that the video was a fake since the plane's supersonic came before the aircraft passed the car, not after. One possible explanation for the capacity, whatever, is that the sound is slightly out of sync and ahead of video, which often happens with dash cam recordings. Viewers identified the plane as an Su-24, a widely used Russian attack aircraft developed in the 1960s. Several claimed that though the Su-24 has been known to fly at such low altitudes during Air Force exercises, those exercises are never performed near federal highways like the one shown in the video. Others believed the man was a prank played by a daredevil pilot. Russian Air Force officials have not yet commented on the incident. London, this is another RT article. London sends magnitky list to Moscow ambassador. A list of 60 Russian intelligence officers and high-ranking officials barred from setting foot on British soil for their alleged role in the death of investment lawyer Sergei Magnitsky, whatever, has been reportedly delivered to the British embassy in Moscow. The list was sent by Homeland Security, Theresa May. There we go. Theresa May. The The Sunday Times reported without specifying when exactly the document was delivered. According to the weekly, Britain's immigration minister, Damon Green, had disclosed details of the blacklist in a letter written to a fellow Troy MP. The list of 60 officials, including prosecutors, judges, tax inspectors, police, and prison chiefs, was allegedly delivered to the British embassy in Moscow. The letter states, "It will be concerned if any entry clearance applications is received from any of the named individuals." The Daily quotes Green as saying the British MP stressed the need for a fair investigation into the death of Sergei, adding that the UK routinely prohibits entry to human rights violators. The UK's lower house of parliament first called a visa bans and asset freezes for the 60 Russian officials in March, though rumors of the list's existence first circulated last October. Troy MP Reb reportedly welcomed news of May's decision, saying this is an important British step in the international campaign to prevent the prosecutors of Russian descent on Sergei from waltzing into the UK or buying a property with their blood money. The UK authorities have never officially confirmed or denied that the British variant of the magnitky list actually exists. Magnitky, a 37-year-old lawyer working for Homage, I think that's what it's called, Capital Management Fund, was arrested by Russian authorities in 2008 on tax evasion charges just days after accusing police officials and state employees of conducting a $230 million corruption scheme, by the way. He argued that it was made possible after tax refunds were issued illegally using documents from companies belonging to Hermitage of Capital. It has been called the biggest unsolved case of tax fraud in modern Russian history. Magnitky died of a heart attack while in a Moscow pre-trial detention faculty in a year later as a it's actually factory a year later as a result of being denied medical care. Implementation of the magnitky list could pledge already chilly relations between Russia and the UK into the deep freeze. The press serves of the Russian embassy in London announced that on Monday, Russian ambassador to the UK will demand an explanation in connection with the Sunday Times publication about the alleged introduction of entry restrictions for Russian officials contacted with the so-called magnitky list. Reported. Magnitky's death has attracted worldwide attention and criticism. In July 2011, the U.S. State Department issued visa bans on several dozen Russian officials in connection to the magnitky case. Russia retaliated by barring entry to several U.S. officials. Even a bill to be considered by the U.S. Congress, which would permit normal trade relations to Russia and repeal the Cold War era Jackson Amendment, a restriction on trade with the Soviet Union inherited de facto by the Russian Federation, is likely to be combined with the Magnitsky Rule of Law Accountability Act. The so-called Magnitsky Bill would institute both a visa and freeze of American demonstrated assets for people accused of involvement in the lawyer's death, and would penalize other alleged human rights abusers from Russia. If there are any limitations to the U.S. for any Russian citizens, there will be inappropriate entry limitations for the certain number of Americans. Russian President Vladimir Putin said at a press conference during the G20 summit in Mexico in June, following a July decision by the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe to pass a non-binding resolution calling on its members to impose sanctions against those In Magnitsky's death, Russian experts called the move political. President of the Foundation for the Study of Problems of Democracy said punishing Russian authorities for Magnitsky's death was akin to if the Russian parliament decided to freeze the assets of the U.S. military responsible for the tortures at Guantanamo. Russian prosecutor general seeks opposition deputies earlier resignation. Russian prosecutor general. This, by the way, this is RT article still. So I'm going to be doing a lot of RT articles. Continuing here, Russian prosecutor general has insisted that State Duma Deputy Gennady Garkov of leftist party Fair Russia is stripped of his post. He said on Saturday a copy of a 1.5 page letter from the prosecutor prosecutor general was delivered to parliamentary office Friday evening. The letter was addressed to the Speaker of the State Duma, Sergei, and was entitled on violations of the Deputy Gennady of the rules on the exercise of his powers and of ethical standards. Told Interflex. It told Interflex. Okay. Earlier, a letter contending the same legislation. Legislation and Venice, I don't know, against him was sent to the Duma by the country's investigative community. We regard it as necessary to consider the early annulment of the powers of the State Duma Deputy Gennady I can't even say the fucking name, sorry. Oh, I said fuck. All right. The deputy cited the send the letter as saying, according to the Russian Constitution, a deputy could not be stripped of his or her status before the end of the term without a court ruling, the deputy noted. Such a move will also give the go-ahead to extrajudicial removals of undesirable deputies and is effectively a blessing for a witch hunt in our country, he added. The prosecutor general's office and the investigative committee did not contact him or demand explanation about the alleged accused against him, he said. Also stated that a group of European parliamentarians, whatever, I can't even say the fucking name, had invited him to Brussels to discuss and all the circumstances of the situation. Several European Union lawmakers are considering putting on the agenda for a session of the European Parliament an issue of extremely gross violations of principles of parliamentarism, he said. Continuing here, Putin orders defense industry modernization, calling pre-World War II advances. Russian president has ordered top state officials to create the conduction. No, it's not coordination. It's conduction. There we go. Conductions for breakthroughs in the defense industry, similar to those achieved by the Soviet Union in the 1930s. Speaking at a session of the Security Council, Russia's top body for coordination of efforts of various state structures, Putin said that the country needs to renew its industrial assets and achieve a major modernization of the entire arms industry. Over the past 30 years, the Russian defense industry has missed several opportunities for modernization, Putin said. Now we have to catch up. In a sense, we should make a breakthrough in the modernization of our defense economy, like the one that happened in the 30s in the last century. He said, adding that the country needs to increase advances in the research and engineering spars in order to produce new types of weapons. Putin also announced that prices for Russian-made weapons would now be determined by the government under the personal direction of Prime Minister, I can't say his name. All arms producing companies will undergo efforts checks in the near future, he said. Putin told security officials that other Russian companies could use foreign technologies in their wares. But it was unacceptable for Russia to manufacture arms from foreign-made parts. The Russian president also said that the country would continue to miss its target quotas if authorities do not set up a method to centralize production orders. The happened at one of the conferences in the end of last year, and it happened again in the beginning of this year. I asked the responsible structures to think about creating an effort control mechanism, whatever, and I haven't received any suggestions so far. Putin was made an increase in defense spending one of his principal priorities, despite warnings by economists that growing military expenditures could undermine the country's budget balance. State defense expenditures, for 2012 are estimated at $677 billion. It's actually billion rumbles, about 21 billion. Between 2011 and 2020, the Russian Defense Ministry plans to upgrade 70% of its weapons of new models, forcing on modern perceptions systems. Russia plans to spend 23 trillion rubles, about 718 billion, in Dover. Fuck, I can't even say the word. Sorry. At the end of 2011, Putin ordered the creation of the government's post of deputy prime minister for the defense industry. He appointed Russia's envoy to NATO to this position. Russian opposition filed request for new March of Millions rally. Several Russian opposition groups have requested permission to hold a 50,000 person rally in Moscow on September 15th, dubbed the March of Millions. The organizers of the march said that the rally will take place where the Federation of Independent Trade Unions held their May 1st march. The trade unions march was approved by authorities, with President Vladimir Putin and Prime Minister joining in at one point. The march is planned to take place along one of the streets in central Moscow, with a major rally at, I can't even say that name, something square near the Carmelian. The rally's organizers, Sergei Deltsov, held of the leftist front movement, and Sergei Davis is a leader in the Solidarity movement, said in an interview that in addition to protesting alleged electoral fraud, the demonstrators would also address social topics. We will put the stress on social social sphere that is common to all. The questions of prices for communal services, salaries, and crisis will be regret in autumn. We will also talk about the ecology and, of course, about political prisoners, those who are accused in particulation in the May 6 unrest, he said. The previous March of Millions, held on March 6, one day before the inauguration of Vladimir Putin. Oh, the inauguration. There we go. The inauguration of Vladimir Putin erupted in violence, with clashes breaking out between protesters and riot police. 14 people were detained and charged with mass riots after the rally, which is a criminal offense prisonable by up to 2 years in prison. Some opposition leaders allege that the detentions and prosecutions were an attempt by authorities to pressure political opponents. Authorities responded to the charges by presenting photos and videos showing the suspects throwing stones, kicking and punching police officers, and in one case, putting an officer in a stranglehold. Opposition leaders also announced that they will launch a campaign on September 15th in support of election for the Joint Coordination Council, a conductive body that will plan further protests. Earlier, I can't say the person's name, head of Moscow's regional security department claimed that he held no prestigious against the opposition's requests and that they would all be considered within the period required by law. Massive demonstrations on September 15th are also planned for other Russian cities. Opposition leaders have submitted a request for 10,000 person march in St. Petersburg and provided authorities with a list of 3 possible venues for the event. The previous mass opposition march in Moscow took place on June 12th. The number of protesters attending varied widely according to different estimations. Police reported that 18,000 people attended, while the protest organizers claimed 100,000 were present. The planned mass march for September 15th will be held under new regulations required by the Russian law on rallies that was enacted in early June this year. The new law introduced much harsher fines for violations up to 100,000 rubles, that's basically around $9,000 for private citizens if the violation result in injuries or damages to property, and up to 1 million rubles, $30,000 for our organization. The bill also outlaws face masks and other attempts by protesters to conceal their identity. The new law allows local authorities to deny permission for a rally only for invalid or illegal request. For example, if organizers have been reportedly brought to court for previous violations of protest law. RT. I gotta finish all this up here. RT, what's this one? DNC security rules arise fears of unconstitutional police tactics. As the Democratic National Convention nears, people in Charlotte could face arrest for carrying water bottles, socks, markers, and other seemingly unthreatening items, triggering worries over free speech violations and warrantless searches. I think I read this before. I'll read it again. Who cares? Guests and protesters of the DNC have expressed concern that law enforcement could violate that constitutional rights in the name of public safety. A new city rule for extraordinary events also bans the possession of handbags, backpacks, soda cans, drink coolers, scarves, bike helmets, baby strollers, and service animals. The rules are vague, causing concern among citizens who don't know if the items they carry will land them in jail. The Associated Press reported a container or object of of weight to be used as a projectile can be interpreted in many ways, including objects like digital cameras, and it just continues on from there. I'm gonna go to this last one because this is already an article I already read yesterday. Let's go to the last one. Here we go. Up to 10,000 U.S. national park visitors risk exposure to deadly mouse-borne virus. I probably read this one too. Hold on. Okay, no. I didn't read that one. Several Yosemite National Park visitors have died as a result of a deadly mouse-borne Hayden virus. As many as 10,000 people may have been exposed to it this summer. A guest who stayed in lodging cabins at the signature tent cabins at Cary Village between June 10th and August 24th are being warned to seek immediate medical attention if they have any symptoms of the Nerber antivirus, which spreads through contact with an infected rodent and its fecal matter. The National Park Service sent 3,100 emails warning tourists that they may have acquired the virus, which six people have already contracted and 2 have died from. That's not good. Yosemite's newly created virus hotline is also field nearly 1,000 calls a day from panicked visitors. We're reaching out, and they are reaching out to us, and we are trying in every way, shape, and form to be transparent and forthright. Park spokesman Scott Ginman told the Associated Press, "We want to tell people this is what we know. The most important thing is the safety of park visitors and employees. Deer mice are suspected of being behind the spread of the virus, which people can attract simply by breathing contaminated air or coming in contact with the routine urine droppings or nesting materials." A 2010 report from the state's health department found that about 1/5 of mice trapped for testing in Yosemite National Park carried the virus. The disease is rare but deadly. It was first identified in 1993. Between that year and 2011, there were 587 cases of human infection, of which 1/3 results in death. The virus has a mutuality rate of 38% actually. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, in 2011, half of the 24 U.S. Antivirus cases ended in death. It typically takes up to 6 weeks for the infestation like symptoms to show up, but once the disease has accumulated, rapid access receptory symptoms and organ failure can develop quickly. Earlier symptoms include fear, headaches, muscle aches, stomach problems, dizziness, and chills. 4 to 10 days later, the lungs begin to fill with fluid, making it difficult for the victim to breathe. The disease is currently incurable. all guests staying in the contaminated lodges cabins were removed on Tuesday, while the Park Service cleaned them and closed all gaps in the walls that served as an entrance for the virus-carrying deer mice. If the effort failed to keep the antivirus out of the cabins may be forced to shut down permanently. And that is, I would say, all for today. I'm going to be here again tomorrow at 12, or try to get here at 12 because I was late again today. So I will talk to all of you tomorrow. And thank you very much for listening to me. If you want to subscribe, you can just hit that subscribe button, or you can also leave a comment, or also follow me on other links I will put down below. You can also follow the music that you heard today, which was from Close to Modern, called Before We Drowned. You can also follow them at the links below. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and have a good day, and God bless America.